Hello and welcome to your week 8 video lesson. This is your lesson for May 12th, Tuesday. I hope you guys used your week 7 time wisely. That was your time to kind of catch up on your work and ask questions if you needed to. So please make sure that you are doing the extra credit in the week 7 folder if you haven't already. We're going to talk about the Black Death today. Now, this might be a kind of a scary topic because this is actually about a pandemic. And I know we're dealing with a big pandemic right now, but let me tell you, what we are dealing with right now is nothing compared to the Black Death. And we're going to learn why that is. Okay, before we get into the nitty-gritty of our lesson today, first I want to go over this very frequently asked question, the age-old question that you get about 5 weeks before report cards are due. What can I do to improve my grade? I've been getting that question a lot more lately, so I just want to answer it for the class, just in case you get that progress report and you're really not happy with what you see. First thing you can do, turn in your missing work. You guys know from the beginning of the semester, I've let you turn in late work. If you didn't do it, now's definitely the time to get on it, okay? The second thing you can do is to complete all the extra credit in the class discussions. Some of you are posting on Schoology with your discussions regularly, awesome. Some of you guys are missing one, maybe catching the next one, but it's an easy way to get points, so make sure you're doing that. And also extra credit discussions. Don't wait until the last minute to ask for help. I understand we're running out of time for this semester and it's been a crazy semester. I know all of these things, guys. So ask for help if you need it. Also, keep up with your distance learning schedule. Come to our Zoom classes so you know what's going on, so you can see your classmates, say hi. And don't forget to watch the weekly YouTube videos, like the one you're watching right now. All right? A couple of Schoology updates. I post our weekly YouTube videos here and our weekly Zoom meetings, depending on what your class you're in. This time might be different here. We also added Fleming announcements. So we have school announcements here and you can find them in this awesome video that Dr. Shivers has put together. So make sure you go ahead and check that out. We have our distance learning schedule here and week 8. You can find everything you need for this week in the week 8 folder. Our essential question for today: can negative events lead to positive consequences? Think about the answer to that question and also think about a time that maybe something negative happened, but it had a positive result. You'll be writing about consequences in your next Schoology discussion. Objective: after watching this video, you will be able to answer check for understanding questions and analyze a primary source about the Black Plague. You'll be doing this in an assessment later this week. Now, our Zoom class is Thursday, so please come prepared and ready to participate. We are still doing our video. We're doing our check for understanding. Write your answers to those questions as we go along in this video. And then, of course, our Zoom class on Thursday the 14th. Again, check for understanding questions. You're writing down answers as you watch because it'll save you time later on when I ask you to complete an assessment on Schoology. First question: how did the Black Plague begin and spread? You're going to be analyzing an image here. What is the artist's message? You'll find out what image that is later on. How did the Black Plague impact the feudal system? Those of you that attended last week's Zoom session probably already have an idea. And what were the consequences of the Black Death? Last but not least, you'll be analyzing a primary source based on the plague, and you will be doing this in your assessment on Schoology. It will be posted on Thursday. Just to give you a quick idea of where we've been, we know that the Dark Ages, the early Middle Ages, were very messy, unsafe. That's when we start to see the rise of the feudal system because people need protection from invasion. In the High Middle Ages, we start to see things stabilize a little bit. We see towns coming back. People start to get back to their regular lives in a way. And we also see kings start having more power. In the Late Middle Ages, there's a couple of disasters that really throw Europe off track. We have the Catholic Church losing power, we have war, and the Black Death. But now we're just going to skip straight into the late Middle Ages where things start to get a little bit crazy. Okay, so how the Black Death even started. Traders traveled along sea routes and they ended up taking a lot of rats with them. The only problem is that these rats had fleas that carried the disease of the Black Plague with them. and they infected people at a very fast rate. Due to trade, port cities around the Mediterranean Sea were the first exposed to the disease. So let's see what that looks like. According to the map, where did the Black Plague originate? And I want you to just go ahead and pause if you need to look at this map closely. Or if you need to look at a different kind of map, maybe open up Google Maps and get an idea, you tell me, where did this originate? You can also Google the answer to this question. I only ask that you make sure your responses are in your own words. The next question, how do you think that the plague spread in such a short amount of time? You can get an idea based on these routes here. Silk Road? Probably have an idea how it spread. Keep that in mind. In this map, we're taking a look at the spread of this disease over time. You might have to pause the video and study this map closely to get an idea of what it's trying to tell us. Those darker red portions of the map are very coastal. We have the Mediterranean Sea here, and you'll notice that most areas that were deeply affected were also centers of trade. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Black Death and what it is, what it did, and to be honest with you, it's a little nasty. It's a little bit gross. So if you're one of those people that's just like, I don't want to see it, Miss Hickman, I don't want to see it, don't show me, then you might want to just skip forward just about 1 minute. I'm still going to get into what the Black Death does and some of the symptoms that people that had this disease might have experienced. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Okay, so if you had the Black Death, remember this disease spread quickly. You might be experiencing one or more of the following symptoms: aching limbs, vomiting blood, glands found on your neck, armpits, and groin, certain areas of your body, they'll begin to swell. Sores appear on the body, and it's really gross, but those bumps are kind of filled with pus and they can burst. So the skin will appear dark in certain areas, which is why they call it the Black Death. Yeah, not pretty at all. So the good news is, if you got the plague, it was terrible. It might not have felt very good, but you could also get the Black Death and survive. How many of you guys have ever heard that nursery rhyme? Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies, ashes, ashes, we all fall down. The truth behind that is that it was inspired by the Black Plague. The lyrics behind this nursery rhyme, this little song that people would just sing for fun, actually go back to history. The rosy part was represented by the rash you might have gotten when you started to get the plague. The posies were supposed to protect you from the disease and to get rid of that nasty smell that went along with it. Sneezing was considered a final fatal symptom, that we all fall down. Somebody might have died. But this is just a fun fact in case you ever wanted to know the origin of this very creepy nursery rhyme. Going back to your check for understanding questions, take a look at this image and I want you to try to interpret what the artist was trying to say. What's the message that the artist is trying to send? In your answer, you're definitely going to have to look closely at the image, really study it. Pause the video if you have to. What message do you think the artist is trying to send with this picture? Keep in mind, it's within the context of the Black Death. Find evidence from the picture that supports your answer. So I want you to tell me what exactly you're seeing that makes you think this is what the artist is trying to convey. This is what the artist is trying to say. All right, check out this guy. He has a strange beak. It looks like he's trying to ward something off. Mostly clothed, and you can't really see it here, but he definitely has some gloves on. Doctors thought the plague was spread from bad air, so they would fill the beaks of these masks right here with herbs that filtered out that terrible, terrible smell. So during this time, doctors and, the people of Europe in general were just very superstitious. They didn't really know what was going on during this time. They didn't have science, experiments, vaccines like we have now. So they didn't know what was causing this terrible disease. They had no idea. When they didn't know what was going on, they assumed, oh, it's an act of God. God's trying to punish us. So they would do things like this. They would wear costumes to try to ward off this disease. Now, do you think it might have worked? Think about it. We have a mask. We have gloves. Okay, but overall, guys, the plague had a devastating impact on Europe and its population. Now, historians and scientists don't agree on the exact number of people that have died due to this disease. If you were in a heavily populated area, up to 50% of the people died from this plague. It was very devastating, and it didn't just stop in Europe. During this time, trade was going all across the Silk Road, all across the Mediterranean Sea. People were trading around the world, so you can imagine the consequences of not knowing that they're carrying disease with them. You guys have heard me talk enough. I'm just gonna let Mr. Q, my coworker, he's super nice guy, true professional. He's gonna go ahead and summarize this for you guys, and then we're gonna come back and discuss the consequences of the Black Death.
A Kid Explains History! Hello, Mr. Q here. Today we have kind of a scary episode, or at least it would have been scary if you were watching it in Europe in the late 1340s, which is obviously impossible without a computer, but the point is, that was the time of the Black Death, and by the end of it, almost half of Europe was dead. It was a bacterial infection called Yersinia pestis. We know this now because of our advances in medicine and science, but it's important to remember that no one back then had any idea what was making people sick. Actually, it was carried by fleas that lived on rats that lived on boats. The first ships carrying the Black Death from the east arrived in the Sicilian port of Messina. In October 1347, 12 ships carried sailors that were either dead or dying, which naturally freaked everyone out in Messina. They tried to send the ships away, but it was too late. People started getting a fever, maybe they would vomit and get a headache, and within 2 or 7 days, they were dead. The dirty conditions of medieval life made it easier for the infection to spread. Seriously, the 14th century must have been stinking. But it wasn't just the overcrowded cities that were dangerous. Sometimes people would run away to the country, only to find out that cows, goats, and chickens could catch the plague too. So you're not safe anywhere. As I said earlier, people did not know why this was happening, and they were terrified that they would be next. Throughout history, this has not always led to the best decisions. Most people figured that the Black Death was sent by God because he was angry at them for some reason. To make him happy, some people thought it would be a good idea to kill the people they thought God was most angry at. This led to horrible crimes against beggars, lepers, and especially Jewish people. None of which stopped people getting sick. Another crazy thing people did during these years was use the plague as a weapon. People trying to take over a city would catapult dead bodies over the walls. These people were mean. Although this wave of Black Death only lasted 6 years, smaller outbreaks kept happening for hundreds of years after that. Along the way, people learned new ways to limit the damage. One of these was first used in Dubrovnik in 1377, and it was called quarantine. Basically, it meant keeping sick people away from healthy people so healthy people don't get sick, and is still an important part of disease prevention today. Luckily, we also have modern medicine. If you are unlucky enough to catch bubonic plague today, you just have to take some antibiotics. The sooner you take them, the better though, so go to the doctor. Not that one. Although he still probably could help you, but that's besides the point. Thanks for coming and watching this video today. I hope I didn't scare you. Remember, all that Black Death stuff happened a long time ago, but although you still can get it. You know what? I'm going to stop talking about this. Have a nice day, everyone. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Q. That guy. True professional. Okay, so some of you might be wondering how the Black Plague even ended. Now, these things didn't just poof disappear. That's not really how a global pandemic works. The disease itself didn't die, but it began to die out. So people were infected at a much slower rate due to things like quarantine, separating sick from healthy, and due to things like moving from highly populated areas to less populated areas. So keep in mind, these things just don't magically disappear. It does take time. The consequences of the Black Death. At this time, people did not know what caused the plague. Again, people turned to religion when they didn't really understand. They saw the plague as a punishment, and they blamed Jewish people for causing the plague, and Jewish people were often persecuted throughout history, even back in the Middle Ages. They were blamed for the problems of other people. So this outbreak led to anti-Semitism, which is hostility towards Jews. Now, economic consequences. You can imagine trade declined. Not only are there less people, but people are afraid to go anywhere. There's a shortage of workers that raised the price in labor. I'll explain that a little bit more later on, but essentially what happens is there's not enough workers, so therefore some workers become more valuable. Peasants bargain with their lords to pay rent instead of providing services. So you see peasants start to gain a little bit more power. Overall, we start to see the feudal system fall apart. So we have our feudal system here. It's looking great, right? But then the plague comes along. Every part of the feudal system is affected. Now there's only one pope, so the pope is less likely to be affected than a group of kings, lords, and especially peasants. Many peasants are killed off, so the ones that are still alive start to gain more power. They start to tell the lords, hey, we're the ones that are left alive. You guys need to start paying us. And by the way, I don't want to be tied to this land anymore either. We have our knights. Many of the knights also fell ill, so they can no longer protect the feudal manor. Lords and kings were no different. Power is going to shift because of this disease, and ultimately this system is going to fall apart. Just to give you an idea of some more consequences of the Black Death. Now, look closely at this graph here. We see the years listed at the bottom here on the x-axis, and on the y-axis here we see the number of people in the world. And when the Black Death comes along, we see something happen. Bam, that population drops. You can see how much of this population that this disease wiped out. We'll get into more of these things later on, but for now, I want you to recognize this devastating effect that the Black Death had on the population and on the feudal system. Now, you should know how the Black Plague began, how the Black Plague helped to end the feudal system, the consequences of the Black Death, and from week 6, you should remember how to analyze primary sources. So the Black Death and the Black Plague, remember those are the same things. We use those terms interchangeably. If you cannot remember how to analyze a primary source, go back to week 6 and watch the videos. Next, you will do your class discussion on Schoology, and then on Thursday, your week 8 assessment will be posted. Those of you that have been writing down your answers to your check for understanding questions this whole time, you guys are going to get through with your Schoology assessment very fast. So hold on to those in your notebook or wherever you're writing them down. If you need any help or assistance along the way, say you don't understand what we're supposed to do, make sure you check Schoology and attend office hours. That's your chance to talk on me one-on-one, and you could even use that time to talk to me about your grade if you need to. Right now, start that class discussion. I will definitely see you on Thursday for our live Zoom session. I can't wait to see you all then.